All right, good evening, everybody. I'm getting the video out a little bit later than I normally do. I guess earlier, technically, because it's late Saturday night here. I've been busy all day out in the sun. Did not catch one lap of that Xfinity Series race, so hopefully it turned out good for you guys. But ready to turn the page and excited to talk about the Cup Series at Dover. So I know some people that are going to the race. I hope you guys have fun, have a good time. Looks like the weather should be pretty good. It always rains at Dover, and I saw it rain during or I heard, I should say, it rained during the Xfinity race today. So I'm not terribly surprised, but forecast looks pretty good for tomorrow. So fingers crossed. As always, guys, hey, how can you help us? You can like, comment, share, retweet our content. Allows us to reach more people. If you like what we do here, if you watch these videos and you haven't tuned in or hit that subscribe button, help us out. It takes 2 seconds, and our goal is to get to 1,000. We're only 150 away, so we're closing in pretty quickly. If you want access to the spreadsheet, ask us questions, lineup changes, news, updates, go over on X. It's at Fast Cars FM. And then lastly, hey, if you're having a good time, maybe you're winning a little bit of money, you just appreciate what we do. You want to send, us a couple of dollars just to say thanks. There is a link in the support tab there to do that. So when we get to the race preview and initial thoughts, first thing is, Dover is a kind of a unique track. First, it's a concrete track. It's one of, a few different concrete tracks that we have on the surface. It's a mile in length, but it kind of races almost like an intermediate, style track. So we have 400 laps today or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this video. So that's a lot of points. There's a lot of, laps led and fast lap points up for grabs. So really, what we want to do today is, who do we think those lap leaders are going to be? Who do we think can get fast laps? Who can earn a good chunk of those 250 points that are up for grabs? And how do we get them into our lines, and how do we build around them? So I want at least two, if not three, potential lap leaders, fast lap getters in my line. Once I figure out and kind of hone in on what drivers I want to be overweight on that I think have lap leading upside, I want to then round out my line with either place differential options and or plays that I think can just finish the race well. Maybe they don't give as much place differential upside as some others, but hey, they showed in practice. They've been showing it all year long on these race conditions that, hey, they can get the job done. Kind of the biggest outlier, I would say, is practice today was relatively cloudy, overcast. And the race tomorrow is probably going to be, 15, 20 degrees warmer, and the sun is projected to be out. So what we saw in practice might not translate, one for one for the race tomorrow, just because conditions are going to be quite different. So I'm really interested, not only DFS wise, but also as a fan to kind of see like, what cars were not were we not leaning on or pointing to, based off practice times that then showed up in the race, or what are plays that everyone's talking about to think are going to do well and then ultimately don't do well because of the weather, or maybe it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and these guys are going to be fast regardless, but got to tune in, to find out. So when we get to the slate today, kind of an interesting mix with the starting grid. You got Larson, Truex, Byron, Hamlin, Bell, and Chastain. And it's pretty rare that you get a lot of, expensive plays starting this deep in the field. Normally these are, your pole sitters. They start at least in the top 10, if not, the top 15. So it's pretty crazy to see, some of these starting positions. So Larson starts 21st. He is expensive. He's more of a place differential upside play. However, he does have lap leading upside, fast lap abilities. But starting 21st is probably going to take him, depending on how the race plays out, most likely not until the end of stage one, sometimes in stage two. And so we might see him up at the front of the field. Truex has been pretty good. Larson also had the best car here last year until Chastain, more or less kind of took him out of the race. So Larson is ready for some redemption. This is one of Larson's best tracks. Larson is arguably just the best driver in the Cup Series. It's hard not to play Larson, every single week because of that. Truex is pretty good here as well. If you kind of are superstitious at all, the narrative, Ryan Truex won in 2023, and then Martin Truex won in 2023. Well, who just won the Xfinity race today? Ryan Truex. Maybe Martin gets it done today as well. Good car, good team, more of a tournament play, I think, for me. And then Byron and Hamlin. Byron and Hamlin are probably my two favorite plays, just based off of practice, the 2024 form, intermediate tracks, where they start as well. So I think Byron and Hamlin are probably the top options for lap leaders. I like playing them together. I also like playing one of them and then pairing them with some of these place differential plays around there. Between the two of them, Byron starts a little bit closer to the front. We know how good his team is on pit road as well. So I would probably lean on Byron, but Hamlin is a close second. Both of them, they didn't have no one really ran a lot of laps in practice just because of how, that practice session just kind of turned out with some of the spins and the wrecks and stuff. But Byron had the best, long run car from the laps that did, count towards that average, and Hamlin was right behind him. So Byron and Hamlin look good. They backed it up in qualifying. Those are really my two favorite lap leaders to build around. So I'm going to have a lot of them, a lot of them together, a lot of them pairing with other drivers. Christopher Bell did spin out and hit the wall in, I think it was qualifying or practice again. I didn't catch it today because I was out and about, but, just trying to catch up on the highlights. So starts 33rd, good place differential upside. The issue is he's super expensive. I don't know if he's going to have a lap leading car. Whereas if you're playing Larson, for example, I think he has place differential upside and can get up towards the front of the field. Now, Larson is very expensive. Chastain makes it into the 10K range. I'll just pair Chastain and Elliott together. They're both very good at Dover. Chastain is really good here. We always see him, kind of running up towards the front at this track, especially in the next gen era. He starts 22nd, gives you some place differential upside. And then Chase Elliott gives you even more place differential upside. He won this race in 2022. Pretty good on concrete tracks. So, getting some type of combination of a Byron, a Hamlin, maybe you go to Blaney or Busch as a lap leader, but, getting one of those types of plays or two of those types of plays. And then if you can afford it, getting a Larson, a Bell, a Chastain, and Elliott, in your lines. I think some combination of, them are really how you want to build today. At least that's how I'm building today. So I'm really high on Byron and Hamlin. So because I'm so high on Byron and Hamlin, I am not as high on Blaney and Busch. Blaney starts second, ran pretty good here last year. Pretty strong in practice as well. He's much cheaper than Byron and Hamlin. I just have a hard time trusting the Fords at the moment, especially on the intermediate, style tracks. With Blaney starting second and Byron and Hamlin right behind him, I don't know how long he potentially could hold on to the lead, even if he gets to the lead, because you also have Kyle Busch that is going to be the control car for the restart. We saw him lead this race last year at this track before it was ran on Monday because of the rain. There was competition caution. Sure enough, he got caught speeding on pit road. The crowd went nuts. He went to the tail end of the field, and we never really, saw him much again because it's so hard to pass in these next gen cars. So I'm not really too high on Busch. I'm not really too high on Blaney. I think they're both going to carry a decent amount of ownership. And with 400 laps, it's a really long race. Even if I miss out on, 50, 60 laps or something that one of them leads, it's not going to be ideal. But I don't think you necessarily need them, in your lines, depending on who you think the lap leaders are going to be. Now, the advantage of playing a Blaney or a Busch is they're much cheaper than Hamlin and Byron. So it saves you a lot of money, and you can build a little bit more of a well-balanced line. You don't have to go as low on the slate if you're really attacking the 10K range. I'm not really getting the Bowman or Logano, based off of where they start. I just don't think they have a lot of upside DFS wise. I really do like Ty Gibbs a lot, though. He starts 19th. It's a JGR car for $8,500. And we've seen Ty Gibbs run pretty well on the intermediate style tracks, especially this year. So I really like the place differential upside that he offers. I think he can easily get inside, the top 12, the top 10. And I really like that price tag. Reddick, more of a tournament play. Maybe he gets out front, leads some laps. Again, I'm just going elsewhere with my lap leaders, but I don't mind him for tournaments. I might bump him down to low, potentially, but he's, his price, he's doable. Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski, fine options if you want to round out your lines. I would prefer playing Gibbs over both of them, maybe even playing Bubba Wallace as well. But I'm going to have, some Buescher and Keselowski in my lines. I think they give you some place differential upside again. I'd much rather play the Chevys and the Toyotas, specifically the Hendricks, Hendrick, JGR in 23, 11, Chastain, those are really the plays that I want to build around. Not that I, don't want any fours in my line, but, if I have to pick, one-offs or, this driver versus that driver, I'm going to lean on momentum. The speed is currently, and that's with the Chevys and Toyotas. So Bubba Wallace, $7,500, starts 16th. Maybe he runs around there. Maybe he can get out front. Not really out front, but maybe he can get you into inside the top 12. You're more kind of playing him for that price tag. Then I'm not getting the Josh Berry. I'm not getting the Chase Briscoe. I'm not getting the Noah Gragson. Basically, all for the same reason. They just qualify too high. Austin Dillon in the RCR starting 23rd. This team has not been very good this year. I think he runs around where he starts. Daniel Suarez was pretty slow, which is concerning. Ross Chastain is really good here. So, maybe they're just trying something else. I'm not really sure, different setups or something, but maybe they can somehow take even half of what Ross Chastain's car has and give it to Suarez. But even if they don't, Suarez starts 31st and he's only $6,700. A decent amount of upside there, even if he finishes 20th or 22nd or something. I mean, that's not a great day, but it's not a terrible day either, especially at that price tag and what it allows you to do with the rest of your line. Michael McDowell, kind of qualifies too high, so I'm not really getting there. Stenhouse is kind of hit or miss. We've seen him be good at Dover. We've seen him get good finishes, and then we've seen him not get good finishes as well. So I wish he started a little bit further in the field, but I still will have him in a couple of GPP lines. I do like Ryan Preece, though. Of all the SHR cars, he starts furthest back. He's the cheapest, and he actually had the best practice times that were the most convincing. Now, he didn't really show up in qualifying like his teammates did, but, for that price tag, getting some place differential, some relatively safety in your line for that price, I like going there. I don't understand, Jimmy Johnson's price. Slowly but surely, they keep pricing him down compared to what he's been at in the past. It is the next gen, era. It's not the Cup cars that we've seen Jimmy Johnson be dominant in, and he really struggles in these cars. And even if he was good in these cars, the team he's on, isn't running very well. So I'm just really not too interested in Jimmy Johnson. However, speaking of Legacy Motor Club, I actually don't mind John Hunter Nemechek. He starts 34th. His practice times were encouraging, but I really like him because of the price and where he starts. And again, what it allows you to do with the rest of your line if you are, paying down for John Hunter Nemechek. Carson Hocevar starts 20th. I think he's a fine option too. His practice times are pretty strong. Starts 20th. Most likely is going to be a driver that might be able to contend, to stay on the lead lap, or at least, be one lap down, and maybe gets lucky with, depending on how many cautions are at the end, he gets the lucky dog and gets a better finish than he really should. So he's going to be in play today. Not really getting the AJ Allmendinger, these colleague cars. It's kind of weird. They haven't been very good all year, and then they showed up this weekend, and both of them, Allmendinger and Hemrick, both qualified pretty well, which was encouraging. But from a DFS purpose wise, there's just not a lot of confidence there. Corey Heim, good luck to you, man. This is a really tough track to get your first start in. Pretty cool paint scheme. So I'll be, rooting for him. I hope he does well, but DFS wise, I'm just not going to get there. It's just hard to trust someone that doesn't really have that much experience on this track type 2, in the Cup Series. Austin Cindric starts 11th, starts too high for me. Corey LaJoie just didn't really have great speed. Not really a lot of upside, in my opinion. I don't mind Todd Gilliland. Again, you're kind of playing him for the price. I think he can finish 25th or so. Maybe there's some accidents, some cautions. Maybe he gets lucky and is able to finish even further than that. Justin Haley looks pretty slow this weekend, so I'm not really getting there. I really do like Zane Smith though. If you're paying up for the Truexes, the Larsons, the Hamlins, the Byrons, the Elliots, the Chastains. You're going to have to pay down. And I really like coming to Zane Smith. For one, he starts DFL. He can't lose you any points to begin with. And second, he was actually decently fast in practice. And lastly, it just allows you to get those top plays into your line. And then I'm not really getting to Hemrick, Burton, or Gralla today. So for me, my favorite lap leaders early on or just throughout the race, honestly, are Byron and Hamlin. After that, who do you think could potentially be a lap leader? Maybe you think Blaney could be a lap leader today. Maybe you think Kyle Busch. Maybe you think it's Tyler Reddick. Maybe it's one of those place differential plays like Martin Truex Jr. or Kyle Larson, or maybe it's Chastain or Elliott. Like, I really like this slate. It allows you to build a lot of different narratives, a lot of different types of lineups. But that's kind of the way that I'm building today. If anything changes or if we get more updates, I'll update you guys on X. Otherwise, enjoy Dover. I'm looking forward to actually watching this race tomorrow, and I hope the guys that I know that are going to the track have a great time. So thank you as always, and catch you next week.